This is section 17, definite integrals graphically, example 2. So along with being able to look at a graph and being given an area under the curve and finding that area, we need to be able to find an integral using known values. And when you think about it, it's actually very, very simple to do this because we know the value. So if you're adding integrals on the same limits of integration, you just add the numbers. You subtract, same thing. Multiply by a number, same thing. Okay, it's later like on D, E, and F where things change a little bit, but not much. So let's look at A. We need to find the integral from -2 to 5 of f of x plus g of x. We know what f of x is because we have the integral from -2 to 5 of f of x is 18. We know that the integral from -2 to 5 of g of x is 5, so it's just 18 plus 5, which is 23. That's the answer. For B, it's the same thing, f of x, so 18, minus g of x, which is 5, minus h of x, which is -11. We do the math, and we get 24. For C, we have 4 times g of x, but our limits are going the wrong way. So we're going to take g of x and put a negative with it, so it's going to be -4 times 5, which is -20. Now in D, that's where it gets a little bit more tricky because of this 2 right here. So we still have g of x, which is 5. But now I have to teach you something, right? Not unreasonable. When you have a number, dx, it's going to be whatever that number is times the top minus the bottom. So it's the number times the top minus the bottom. Number times the top minus the bottom. That's what you're doing. Top minus the bottom. So it's 5 plus 2 times 7, which is 19. And that's what we're doing for E and F as well. So we have f of x, which was 18, minus 6 times the top minus the bottom. It's the same limits, so it's still 7. And 18 minus 6 times 7 is -23. Now we have 1/2 of h of x, so we have -11/2 plus 5 times the top minus the bottom. They're the same limits, so it's still 7, which gives us, when we add everything together, 59/2. For G is the same problem. I just put all the instructions at the top again. For G, now the only thing we know how to do so far is plug in what we see when it's just h of x. This is h of x minus 2. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the minus 2 and apply it to the top and the bottom. We're allowed to do that. When we do that, we get the integral from -2 to 5, because 7 minus 2 is 5, of h of x dx, which is just -11. That's it. We can do the same thing with this plus 2. We're going to add 2 to the top, add 2 to the bottom. So we get the integral from -2 to 5 of g of x dx, which we already know is 5. I is going to take a little bit more work because we're going from 5 to 8 of f of x dx. So there's nothing tricky about the limits of integration, but we do need to use a little bit more intuition to figure out the integral from 5 to 8. Now, we know here in this problem 2 things about f of x dx. We know -2 to 5 and the integral from -2 to 8. Well, 5 is in there, right? 8 is in there. So we know that from -2 to 8, that's all the way across, we know that that has an area of 0. We know that from -2 to 5, so I'm going to put 5 here, that has an integral of 5, right? 18, sorry. So that's 18, which means that in order for them to cancel out, we would have to have this also. This needs to be -18, because 18 minus 18 is 0. That's the only way to make it 0. So that is -18. Yep. All right. J. We have 1 minus f of x dx from 8 to 5. Now, we know what it is from 5 to 8. It's negative 18. So f of x here is going to be positive 18, and we're subtracting it. So it stays minus 18. And then we have 1 times the top minus the bottom, which is 5 minus 8. Well, 5 minus 8 is negative 3. Minus 18 is negative 21. Here, now when you do change the limits of integration, you can only change it for the term that has the minus 3 in it, or the plus 3, or the whatever number you're dealing with. So I actually need to take this integral and split it up into 2. I'm going to take it and change it to 1 to 8 of f of x minus 3 dx plus the integral from 1 to 8 of 3 dx. It is so important, so important that you write dx every time. Now we're going to take this negative 3 and apply it, so we have minus 3 and minus 3. So we get negative 2 to 5 of f of x dx plus the integral from 1 to 8 of 3 dx. That didn't change. So the integral from negative 2 to 5, according to our information that they gave us already, is 18 plus 3 times the difference. 8 minus 1 is 7. And 18 plus 3 times 7 is 39. We're going to do the exact same thing here. So first we're going to split it up. So we have 2 to 9. Now remember, that 2 that's in front here, I can actually pull out. So that's going to change a little bit. Minus the integral from 2 to 9 of 6 dx. Okay, now I'm going to take that minus 4 and apply it. So minus 4 minus 4. So I still have 2, but 2 minus 4 is negative 2. 9 minus 4 is 5. How convenient was that? Then we have 2 to 9 of 6 dx. So we have 2 f of x's. F of x is 18. Minus 6 times the top minus the bottom, which is 7. 2 times 18 minus 6 times 7 is negative 6.